it best was the Nazis through the Holocaust. They had a philosophy, they planted it, they had norms, they had a utopia, that this utopian norm, and the first people in the Holocaust that were tested on and killed were those with disabilities, right? So again, capitalism, another system that we're in today, perpetuates much of this philosophy of ableism. It promotes individualism, competition, rather than a win-win. It provides a win-lose situation. It provides efficiency. So all these chairs are all the exact same for the most part, right? Except for being left or right. So the actual chair is constructed for an individual that's about 5'8", 160 pounds, that's not pregnant, that can sit and stand, etc. So we understand that there are products constructed to perpetuate this normalcy and ableism, right? And we see it similar in two institutions, as Foucault says, prisons and schools. And prisons and schools are two places, one that is supposed to be completely oppressive and repressive and controlling, and one that's supposed to be liberating. But we can see today that that school and higher education, we can look at 30 miles away from here, north, in Ithaca, and we drive around a beautiful institution called Cornell University, and there's barbed wire around the fences, right? Well, why is there barbed wire around the gorges? Because the institution, the administrators, the staff, the faculty, and the students, and the community perpetuate the elitism, which drives students to commit suicide, right? And so rather than changing the repressive system, they created a Band-Aid effect, and they put barbed wire fences up, right? Not to say that we need to change and what we're doing is wrong, that we're blaming the victim, right? So if a female gets raped, it's because of how she flirted with the male, if it's a heteronormative relationship, right? It's because how she dressed, how she spoke, how she approached the individual, right? Rather than blaming the system or the oppressor, right? And then the production lines, which we have today, everything's run on bells, everything's run on uniforms if it's K-12 in many institutions, metal detectors, scantrons, IETs, etc. And students are not looking at the love of education, but they're becoming consumers so they can get a job, right? And we can see this through evaluations of the professors and the students. So really quick, I made a few images that I thought about when I'm looking at eco-ability, and we can kind of note that. It's techno-digitally justice. I'm kind of beginning on the left and then kind of going around. It focuses on collaboration versus competition. I already noted that. Focuses on difference and diversity, right? It's a holistic understanding, transformational, where we all have to change. And Norm speaking about how we need to, and I remember speaking about the ALF and the ELF, Earth Liberation Front, the Animal Liberation Front, going all over the country and other countries, and speaking about these really revolutionary underground organizations. And I said, well, when the Earth Liberation and the Animal Liberation Front burns down a slaughterhouse, the movements need to step in and provide assistance to those, many of them immigrants without visas, or individuals that are poor, that are working in these slaughterhouses, to find alternative jobs. And rather than being embraced with this concept of intersectional social justice, human rights, and animal rights, etc., they said, no, they're evil, they're like they're little Eichmanns, and we need to we need to give no justice, no hold barred, right? Kind of like what the animal rights movement, for the most part, is doing with Michael Vick right now, which has its own discussion and dialogue that we could go on forever about. But then there's those individuals that on their own means, the list goes on, Howard Lyman is one, that if they convert on their own in a voluntary manner, they become leaders in the animal rights movement, right? This movement, if we speak about animal rights or the environmental movement, and much since the 1980s and the 70s, there's a book called Nothing with without us. Exactly. Nothing about us without us. And it's a red and black book. And I think it's a really great philosophy. The environmental and the animal rights movement are only two movements globally that are run 100%, not 50%, 100% by the individuals that are oppressing and destroying and killing them. Right? Like, they might not be those, but it's the actual individuals doing, like, so they might be vegan. Animal rights people might be vegan. But without a doubt, anybody in this movement is truly not vegan. We're having cell phones, we're having computers, we're driving cars, et cetera, et cetera. So it's going to be very difficult to have true animal liberation if the people that are proclaiming animal liberation are the oppressor. So we're in a major predicament here, and I don't know how to move forward, except for being conscious of that. And I think people are not really conscious of that because we say we're the voice for the voiceless. Right? Robin kind of noted that in a conversation. So it has to be intersection on a few other things that a number of other people spoke about. So this is a really quick diagram, and it's self-explanatory. Angela Davis recently, and a number of other people recently spoke at Syracuse University about a year ago. And in the 1970s, there was a move towards black liberation, Chicano liberation, women's liberation. And then something happened in the 2000s where we started saying studies. And we stopped saying liberation because it had this negative connotation and stigma, right? And I want to really embrace this again, and kind of focus on eco-liberation or eco-studies. The constructions of the two, and people have kind of noted that animal liberation, disability liberation, earth liberation, and the isms and that oppress those, and the binaries that construct them. So here is, I think, a few, when we look at the animal liberation and disability, these are two hot topics that people always get into debates about, right? Animal testing, animal vivisection, and then service animals, right? And when we're talking about animals, we're talking about non-human animals. And I would love to keep on talking about these issues because they're complex. And why I say they're complex is, I think animal testing is a lot less complex, right? Service animals, it's to say that those individuals that have pets, for example, a dog or a cat, in their home, that just hang around, right, are not in service. But they are. They're perpetuated in a service relationship. And those individuals that are human, that own that home, are wardens of a prison, right? But it's a prison that we're either saying, let all the animals go, and they'll get hit by cars, etc., and there's going to be overpopulation and starvation, or we've created the domesticization of many animals, and now we have to figure out what to do with this massive dilemma that we constructed, right? And so kind of playing out, not to say that I support service animals, I don't, but I think that what do we do in this situation, right? And not to say that certain individuals are not in a service relationship. All animals that are domesticated in a home, etc., are in a service relationship of some sort, right? My cat loves me. I hear that so often. No, they don't. How do you know this? Like, I wish, that was the case, but they're dependent on you. Stigmatization of those with disabilities, and then I'm going to go into the 4 cases, and you can just cut me off at any time. I don't know how much time I have. American flag, $23. Gasoline, we're in a post or a terrorist age, and post 9/11 age, and a current Boston Marathon age. Gasoline too. That's spelled wrong. Cigarette lighter, $1.50. Catching yourself on fire because you're a retarded terrorist, priceless. So right after September 11th, there was thousands of ads that related terrorism to people with disabilities, and we can see this with the NRA saying that no one that has a disability should have a gun. Specifically those with mental disabilities, right? And even though that those individuals that